Away from this, damaged cars, unreasonable fares and nasty flooding situations are only a few of the many nightmares that residents of Room 6 near Ashalibotwe Lakeside Estate say they suffer as a result of their deplorable roads. They told JoyNews the horrible state of their road has persisted for more than 20 years. PSA Nanaya Safo reports the residents are appealing to successive government for these roads to be completed, and those appeals in the past have also yielded no results.
At first look, the lands beyond Lakeside Estate in Ashalibotwe are perfectly normal, but a closer look reveals potholes in the roads which can best be described as mini craters. A drive in this part of town requires skill, extreme patience, and most importantly, one has to necessarily fasten their seat belt. The road ahead is a long dusty stretch. It is untarred with poor drainage on either side, and this has marred the otherwise beautiful community.
So many years I've been praying for this road, more than 25 years. Any government comes, it goes. The road is just how it is.
Stephen Ntie is a taxi driver here.
Anytime they will say, oh, election, you rise to vote for them. But yesterday, our road, see how it is. Our cars are all getting damaged. There's no one to help us. So, my brother, if your people will help us alone, drive people, make people try. They get majority of their vote from this side. And see our situation. Master, see our situation. Every blessed day, you have to go to a workshop. Every blessed day, if you go 4 trips, 1 trip there for workshop. If you the drivers there, I say the government haters. I say maybe you have taken the government in wife or something of that, so you don't know.
So you are losing a lot of money?
Master, you are losing all our capitals. You are losing all our the little income that you get.
But he is not the only one. Adwa Pukwa, a trader, has lived here for 17 years. She says the road has been in a dilapidated state and is calling on authorities to intervene.
The
roads are terrible. Accra buses don't even go all the way to the last stop. They refuse to do so because of the damage it causes to their vehicles. The sanitation here is also not deserving of an estate. You see these potholes? They cause many motor accidents also. We suffer severe flooding and traffic, all because of the poor roads and lack of gutters.
The state of the road is taking a toll on the residents and many who ply their trade here. Osman Sharif, a water tanker transporter, says it takes him longer to distribute water because of the routes.
I'm
driving on a different route just to swerve its poor conditions. Our trucks are often damaged due to the road bad nature. Government should please come to our aid. The other side of the road is an eyesore.
Obia complaining about the quino. Obia control for taxi for private. Obia complaining about the quino.
Officials of the Denton Municipal Assembly admit the roads need to be fixed in order to relieve residents of the agony they are faced with. Adentan MC Alexander Ninoy Edumwa says plans are underway to construct an ultramodern drain in the area. He explains why this must be done before rehabilitating the road.
I mean, what's the point in putting a road there when coal tar and water do not mix? Water is coming from the top. The next rainy season, water will go under the coal tar that you have built, and then it comes off. And when it's been tarred before, the road has been tarred before, and the potholes come, they are worse than when they do not have the coal tar on them. But right now, if we do the drain, it means water coming from higher ground will just go into the drain. It won't spill over. So even if we put laterite on the road and compact it very well, still serve the purpose of a good, the water will not cast.
So what are the timelines for the construction of drains and roads? That's the question I put to Mr. Dumwa.
All I can say is pretty soon. I won't say it in July or August or September or November. But I do know that it is on the ground, it's being accepted, and everything has been done because it's been packaged. I know the distance to be something in a little in excess of 1 kilometer. And the drain is going to be done. It will be done in 2 phases. And I haven't been there lately, but I know somebody's supposed to be doing some work eventually.
With authorities unable to offer timelines for the construction of drains and roads in the area, residents continue to wait in vain, with only hope as their anchor.
I don't know whether they want to see damage or accidents before they come in. Normally, that is how most of the leaders know. They want us to do or form demonstration. But how long can always we form demonstration, do demonstration before they can hear our cry? No. Since we are, the members of this community, they should come and help us. We pay tax and all this. So we need their help. We need their help.
Moving on, the subject of election-related matters and corruption. The Citizens Movement Against Corruption wants the CEO of the Zongo Development Fund, Arafat Suleiman Abdullahi, relieved of his post after admitting to a breach of the procurement law. A Corruption Watch investigation also uncovered that the CEO engaged in an alleged procurement practice in the purchase of goods, services and works worth some 5 million Ghana cedis. The management of the Zongo Development Fund also allegedly superintended over procurement breaches, including the inflation of contract figures and breaching of entity head threshold. Now, speaking on PM Express, the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Adam Sananu, said the Zongo Development Fund chief executive must, as a result, not only be fired, but must also be made to face the full rigors of the law.
I wish that the citizens in that area, in the Zongos who are supposed to benefit from this, will themselves begin to understand how come we are not getting the results they deserve when we set up these funds. It's just outrageous, absolutely outrageous. First of all, I ask myself, do we cross-check the backgrounds of the people we are appointing to these positions? Because it's almost as if he has absolutely no clue about how procurement should be done, what is acceptable, what can be taken on board and not taken on board. And he seems to think that you can just correct it. I think these are red flags that it is very important that Corruption Watch is raising. Because we've already had a SADA where trees that were supposed to be planted never were planted. We lost so much money. It is sad to think that in the same organization, barely within a 4-year period, we are beginning to see the makings of another huge scandal. Yes, under normal circumstances, there should be a management response to the auditing that is taking place. So maybe there's a sense in which we need to wait a little. But I think that if auditors are raising questions and we can already find that somebody goes beyond his entity tender committee and is going to public procurement to try and correct a major gap like this, the government ought to be stepping in to act. If the presidency is up to its game, you should remove this guy immediately, indicate that the investigative bodies should quickly complete their investigations, submit reports for which the necessary sanctions. If he's cleared, fine. If it's not, the law should follow its course, and that should be done quickly. We send a bad impression when these things come up, media flags it, and no actions are taken. It probably is the reason why in the same institution, in a very short time, we are having a similar event.
But that's it, a run-up of the latest news update right here. But we do have more news as we review the newspapers. Myself, Gifty Ando Apia, and the beautiful Mama Vioso Abuaje. Do stay on. Well, we're back. I love your red. You didn't tell me. I would have put on a red tie. You know I love red ties.
Isn't there red in your mask?
Yeah, no, but it pales in comparison with the dominant blue. Yeah.
Seriously, if I had said to you I was going to wear this, you would have put on something.
Yeah. Charlie, because
you changed.
If I'm selecting something in terms of the main dress, blue always. But tie always.
There can be a touch of red.
Charlie, red. I don't prefer. Anyway, how are you?
I'm good.
I hope you slept well.
I did.
One thing I do know is that we're all not afraid of coronavirus again, which should not be the case.
I am actually.
Yeah, I am too.
Very much afraid of coronavirus.
I'm talking general, what the generic feeling is, and I don't think it should be the case.
Well, communities are not necessarily reflecting that fear that you talk about. Of course, we should be afraid of COVID-19. Of course, there's still no vaccine. We hear Russia coming up with something, but there isn't any vaccine. But if there was, look at the entire world population. When would it get to our turn? You get it? So there's so much to be still afraid of COVID-19. You
know, Bill Gates, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the entire Bill Gates empire, they sponsored or used about $150 million just to make sure we research into a vaccine. And we're hoping that we can get that. But the thing is, can we get access? And it's good that you pointed that to us. That despite all the noise we're making, when the vaccine comes, it will only go to some few people. And because of the rush or the demand for it, it definitely...
America is ready to put whatever amounts on anything that's discovered anywhere so that they can be the first to get a hold on it. But we're talking about coronavirus. So let's check real quick. Let's see the updates that we can share with you in terms of our Ghana situation.
Well, so total confirmed cases, that is from when we started recording, March 12, when we had 2. Now we have 41,572 Ghanaians having been infected. That's just the rate. Now, which are the active cases? So we have 2,029. I am tempted to add only 2,029. Of course, forgive me if you think that I shouldn't be using only, but it's because we've had 39,320. Indeed, well, again, forgive me, I just said just, because one death is still very tragic. 223 people dying. I'm saying this because if you compare to what the figures are on the continent elsewhere in the world, Ghana has really done well in the management of the COVID. But there are other scientific reasons that could be adduced to argue this case out. So we have critical cases 5, severe 18, and 3 of these infected people on ventilators. And just new cases we're having, per what we have, 168 so far. So it looks like the trend based on what the estimator going down per the records. All right. In order not to bore you with too many figures, I have to also say that the two of us are encouraging you. Please adhere to the protocols, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think the reason we are sharing is because when you go to most communities, it's as if there isn't any coronavirus at all. We're living like there's no disease called coronavirus that we still don't have a cure for. So we're just encouraging you to still do the things that when we went under lockdown, when it was eased, when we all started talking, when we're getting daily or regular updates in the week, I think 3 times or so, or twice. Let's go back to the things that we're doing when we're doing all those things. You get what I mean? That's what shows that we're actively doing something. You talk about the fact that we're doing well, but check the continent of Africa, and it is said that Ghana and Nigeria, for instance, are the 2 countries in West Africa that they have to keep an eye on. It doesn't mean that we're doing so well when you talk about the continent itself. The countries that they point to and they say they're doing extremely well are Uganda, for instance.
But the national COVID team has justified that. It's because we've done more testing than many of these, and that is why we're getting more of these. So, well, depends on what the argument is. I know Mama is shaking her head profusely. But look, let's not...
Let's do the newspapers now.
Straight away.
Let me, and I'm checking. It's Thursday, August 13, 2020. The Daily Graphic.
Mama, I love your red.
Front page.
You know, Graphic 2 has its logo as red.
What are you saying? Are you saying I'm graphic?
I mean, you're checking the graphic.
Okay, let's look at, and this is the update from the Electoral Commission's briefing yesterday. EC confidence of credible register, nearly 17 million voters captured. As you heard in the news, the number of persons who use the Ghana card, 60.9%. And then those who went on the guarantor system, 37.99%. Those of us who went with the passport, just a small figure of 1.92%. But the thing that's grabbing everybody's attention is the fact that we still have minors, we still have foreigners who registered. And to think that we really didn't cure that with the new register, it's got a lot of people still talking. Did we really go through this whole process just to repeat what we know is the story each time we do an exercise like this? It's one of our big conversations on the show today. Also, Government World Bank vote $200 million for job creation. Police caution political parties against vigilantes. But you know that just cautioning is not enough. We've seen it, and there has to be action. If we have a law, why do you caution people? Just deal with them if they go against what we have. Not sure we've seen the law actively being activated, and so I'm not sure about cautioning, but we'll check out a bit of details when we get there. UG Chancellor elected fellow African Academy of Sciences. That story is also in the paper today in the center spread. Parliament approves 2 credit facilities. Ensure clean campaigns. Clergy urge politicians. NAT calls for stakeholder consultations on reopening dates for schools. The Ghana National Association of Teachers has called for a broad stakeholder engagement before any decision is taken on the appropriate dates to reopen schools in the country. Such engagements, it said, should involve the Ghana Medical Association, teacher unions, parents, the Ministry of Education, and the Ghana Education Service, among other key stakeholders. On the back page of the paper today, Cocoa Board rehabilitates farms affected by swollen shoot disease. And there's a sad incident of a police officer or a policeman accidentally killed by a colleague in the Bono region. A bit of that story for you. It says tragedy hit the rapid deployment force of the Bono Regional Police Command when a member of the team, Corporal Rexford Amwako, was allegedly shot and killed accidentally by one of his colleagues. According to the police, the RDF was deployed from Sunyai last Monday for highway patrol duties within Doma. However, during the operation, a member of the team allegedly fired his gun accidentally, which killed Corporal Mwako in the Diaba forest in the Doma West District. The Bono Regional Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Police Service confirmed the incident to the Daily Graphic. He said investigation had begun to ascertain the actual cause of the tragic accident. Oh, and I hope that, you know, we treat it as a crime so that we can unravel all the things associated with it, but not say it was an accidental shooting. Let investigations arrive at that. Let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper front page. At the end of voter registration exercise, Greater Accra Ashanti top electoral roll with over 3.5 million, 3 million voters respectively. House approves $1.3 billion loan for Cocoa Board to purchase cocoa beans. Armed robbers gunned down pastor at Ejiso Tikrom. And then we will continue to support youth amid COVID-19. That's the vice president saying there. But the story of armed robbers gunning a pastor down, that story is in page 13. Suspected robbers have shot and killed the head pastor of the Jehovah Nisi Evangelical Ministry branch of Ejiso Tikrom in Ashanti on Wednesday. The pastor, Reverend Maxwell Atakra, 44, was killed at his residence at Enyinem, this is Kejase in the Inshiaso constituency of Ashanti at about 3 a.m. Members of the church, family, and neighbors are yet to come out of the shock. Associate pastor of the church, Douglas Safo, indicated that, quote, I received a phone call from my pastor, that's the deceased wife, and she told me Pastor Maxwell Atakra has been shot dead by armed robbers, unquote. Oh, and still quoting the wife, the robbers rushed to the bedroom of the deceased and ordered them to bring their money. I quickly rushed to the house and saw Pastor Maxwell at Accra's lifeless body lying on the floor. This is such a sad incident there, to think that we're going through all the challenges that we're going through today. People losing jobs, people not making the monies that they used to make. But we have a bunch of people who think that they can freely go and other people to give them their belongings, as if we're not going through our challenges already. This is really, really sad. Our condolences to the church members and the families as well. We hope that the police will do a good job in arresting these robbers. On the back page of the Times, IWA, that's the Importers and Wholesalers Association, deplores influx of substandard face shields on markets. Also, Agric Extension agents in 3 northern regions undergo training in cashew farming. The last paper for me will be the Business Finder, front page. AGI welcomes 100 billion Ghana cedis CARES Fund, ready to engage government on details. And then ADB shareholders will enjoy dividends soon, according to the board chairman. We will continue to keep faith with customers. That's CBG making that assurance. But a bit of this. This story on the front page, the Association of Ghana Industry says it will soon commence engagements with government on the details of the 100 billion Ghana cedis COVID-19 alleviation and revitalization of enterprises support program. This is Chief Executive Officer of the association, Chum Akwabwa, telling the Business Finder the lack of clarity over the details of the program and role to be played by the private sector makes it imperative for engagement between the private sector and the Ministry of Finance. The rest of the story, you can grab the paper and read. The Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications has welcomed the reduction in the communication service tax, but urged government to scrap the tax since, quote, the CST is targeted at sectors that are more productive but vulnerable. And this is Kenneth Ashigwe, the man who celebrated his birthday yesterday, who's the chief executive of the chamber, speaking to the Finder. The rest of the story. And then the Ghana government will evacuate its nationals stranded in Lebanon in the coming days following the deadly explosions in its capital, Beirut. The Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Charles Oredu, said the government expected to evacuate the remaining 1,500 stranded Ghanaian nationals in Lebanon. So that's updates on that situation as well. Really, that will be it for the Finder, Roland.
Okay, so straight away, let me bring you what's on the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. We do have, again, the updates on the figures, and I promise you right on there, I'm sure we'll do some analysis in a day or two about what figures we have currently as far as the publications or the data from the Electoral Commission and what the extrapolations are. So we have voter registration has ended, comparison between 2020 and 2016 voter registrations period, or the registers. The Greater Accra has additionally over 444,000 voters, 222,000 central, and then northern region. Look, if you look at the figures as they're coming in from the Electoral Commission, the central region seem to be increasing, Greater Accra as well, and then there's some declines that is being witnessed in northern Ghana, and then you have the Volta region. Those who are NDC members are very much interested in that area as well, but it's for good reason. It doesn't mean that the people are not around. They're all in Ghana, but it's just that the incrementals in the registration numbers seem to be declining over a period. So we'll try and do that. We just started it a couple of days ago, so we'll quickly wrap it up and let you know. Election 2020, don't dare us. Police warn against violence. On the side, it is a tease out of that report or survey by the Media Foundation for West Africa, and they're already indicating, and we brought this on JoyNews for you, radio stations responsible for 70% of ethical violence. All right, flouting guidelines, ethics.
Isn't it just like the fact that we have a vigilante law in place today, but then you see the police still cautioning.
Yeah. the media. So we are also part of the problem. While
I was just going to say that there's also a National Media Commission, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at those who flout these ethics, those who do the wrong things, it's the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they know them. Don't they have a monitoring system? Because they do. The NMC insists that they do have a monitoring system.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
But big ups to the Media Foundation for West Africa. I think they've been very consistent with this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on the back page, we have another story, and it's about Osu Mancha advises NDC running mates be prepared to stomach insults. Insult. One more insult or what?
Stomach it. Why should they even insult?
Yeah, but you know, but even the political figures
should deal with
are throwing jabs at each other.
Yeah.
Insults. They're insulting each other. So, and that's the reality. So it's been copied. And sometimes I keep wondering why we punish the senior citizens, because sometimes it's a reflection of what's at the top.
Roland, I don't think it's sometimes though. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Isn't that what they see? Isn't that what they're learning? So that's what they will exhibit.
I agree.
Yeah, you can't give out what you're not getting.
Call a spade a spade.
That's it. All
right, so we have the Daily Guide, has on the front page, Mahama is old cargo. Bawumia fire. Bawumia to the fire. Jesus Christ, this man. Fire. But well, while there was an event to introduce the running mate, that is Nana Jenopoko Ajiman, of John Dramani Mahama to the clergy. And you know, Assemblies of God member, he said he's not going to insult. So he's not going to throw jabs. But Charlie Bawumia is hot. And this one, I don't know, I think the former president needs to do something about it. You can't say that, Charlie, but
we know our politicians, depending on where they are, they will say, yo, and then they'll say something else if they found themselves in another spot. We know it.
Yeah.
And you can't go and stand in front of a pastor and say...
But this, you can't let these things be rubbing on you. Try to fire back small. You know.
But this was just yesterday.
But you know, 2016, the question is 123. All right, so we have students paid light bill and the NDC. Yeah. And we also have women top voters register, 51%, a little above.
To be fair, I think some of the jabs, I mean, it's just a bit below, it's too petty.
Below the belt.
We have to rise and deal with the substantive matters, I think. Sometimes it gets really annoying with some of the things that you hear.
All right, so $1.3 billion approved for the cocoa board to buy cocoa beans. And then Kunedu wanted to succeed Rollins Ahoy. Rollins.
This Ahoy book, dear. We have to check how much money he's made with the book. But if you disagree with him, you two write a book. He said it is working with Rollins. It's his perspective.
Yeah.
Were you there? So you two write a book.
So the Daily Statesman also has a crafty Rollins democratize violence. Ahoy demonizes NDC founder in explosive book. No ECOWAS register for 2020, EC assures, but we have foreigners on the register.
Exactly.
So if you're a foreigner, it's outside the border of Ghana. So we are bordered by ECOWAS countries. So it's not an ECOWAS register, but we have some ECOWAS citizens and other citizens of the EU, Asia.
Well, but that's because just because you've decided to compile a new register doesn't mean you've dealt with the real issues.
Yeah.
You haven't.
Yesterday we were discussing this, right?
Yeah, we haven't.
Annoyingly so.
We haven't.
I don't know why you decided to register. Okay, so...
But it's almost an impossible task,
I give you just 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah. This is just thanks to the graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do myjoyonline.com before we run off. Roland, whilst we try to do that, what are you highlighting on?
My highlight basically is on the number of foreigners and then also the minors? The minors that we have the register. And I know that this discussion began towards the afternoon or the latter part of yesterday for us. And it's about the rationale that was given by the Electoral Commission to convince or compel
the justification for a new register.
So I kept wondering, why is it that the systems were not talking to each other? If this was an upgrade on the structure, the technology that we were using to do the registration, Because I do know if you have an intranet or internet, you pop in a data and information, and there's already one in the system, and it's a replication. It will tell you, look, this is popping. So we should have had that in real time or something.
Well, the Electoral Commission has been answering some questions related to that.
I've been listening to them.
And they, for instance, talked about how somebody's finger, the data they collected, the thumb, or the data they collected with the fingers could match about over 100 other persons. So if
that shouldn't happen. I'm told the fingerprints are not identical.
Well, but that's what they said, for instance.
It's unique
and they said
to
this has happened. I listened to Dr. Asrebo Kwaku make that comment. And so if you did that automatically to eliminate people on the go, you would be getting people who should be legitimately be on the register. So there are things associated with it. It's not that simple, they say. But I get you, and I know that we're going to get into that matter proper.
Our time is up, but this is what we have on myjoyonline.com. Ghana's active COVID-19 cases dropped significantly. The Ghana Health Service is indicating. We have also other stories there. Make sure that you get onto myjoyonline.com, get the latest. It is your birthday. You're usually called Uncle Robert. Mr. Robert Abeka Aqua. You live in Cape Coast. You're 7 scores and 1 today. That's your age. Well, if you can read the Bible, you should know this. So this one is coming from your son, Ernest Morgan Aqua, who is the general manager of Zoom Lion Accra Zone, and your daughters, as well as the rest of the family. And they say they love you so much. All right.
Stunning performance from PSG in the Champions League. A lot of what you missed yesterday. What is to come today? Coming up next in sports.
Away from that, members of government's COVID-19 task force yesterday held a training workshop for technical team members of the 4 national teams that are expected to resume camping. Now, the workshop was geared towards educating the team officials on issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic and also preventing its spread while in camp. Muftar Nabila has more in this report.
The workshop, which was held at the GFA conference room, was geared towards educating team officials on issues related to COVID-19 pandemic and preventing its spread whilst in camp. The COVID-19 task force was led by Dr. Abuaji Da Costa, leader, risk communication and social mobilization, national response COVID-19 team, Dr. Evelyn Ajay Mensah, member of the national case management team, and Dr. Lawrence Lamte, a member of the surveillance team. After the program, Dr. Da Costa, in an interview with Joyce Sports, said it was a success.
It was just an orientation to provide information on the basic protocols to the national lead handlers and also some of their COVID-19 teams, and I think the security governing football, their security team. So we provided them, we took them through the safety protocols and how, they will be able to adhere to those protocols in terms of while they are in camp. As you know, we have eased for the under 17 women and also under 21. So they'll be going to camp this Friday. So it was necessary for us to provide them with this workshop to help them.
Despite the certainty that the national teams can assemble effective Friday, Dr. Da Costa said he will not be surprised if there are cases in camp.
It was really good, and I think that all those who came, per the evaluations they gave us, now do have understanding of what they have to do and the protocols in obviously adhering to those protocols. The principle is that the incubation period of the virus is 2 to 14 days. The virus is in our communities, so it is predicted that certainly some people will go there with the virus. This is why you have to test. But after 14 days, you see that coming down. Remember when we reopened school for the final year students to go, initially there was a surge, but After the 14 days, it started coming down. So we have to take all these, the science and the data into perspective and guide the process, and that is what we are doing. So certainly, I will not be surprised if there is a case, but if there is a case, it will not be a strange thing.
The U17 Women's World Cup, which is taking place in India, is expected to come off February 17 to March 7, 2021.
Data provided by the EC shows that females form the majority with 51.73% of those registered, while male registrations stand at 48.27%. Chairperson of the EC, Jean Mensah, says the exercise has been successful.
We commend all of you highly for your interest and participation, which made the exercise a success. The experiences and accounts shared by our numerous stakeholders indicate that the training afforded to our temporary officials was effective. The efficiency and professionalism of our field staff, coupled with the robustness of the registration kits, contributed to the high number of registrants we witnessed today. On average, we recorded 150 registrants per kit per day, as compared to previous registrations where we averaged some 80 persons per kit per day.
She revealed there are minors and foreigners on the electoral roll.
The Commission is mindful of the infiltration of foreigners at a number of our registration centers. Additionally, we are aware that a number of minors have found their way into the register. We are confident that the challenge processes initiated at all districts throughout the country will unearth these illegal persons and rid the register of those who do not qualify to be thereon. We are confident that the register that will be used for the 2020 elections will be a wholly owned Ghanaian enterprise, reflecting qualified Ghanaians and Ghanaians only.
The Commission says it intends to remove such persons from the roll through the pending challenge cases.
The process of deduplication and adjudication, which are currently ongoing, will flag multiple registrations in the system. Additionally, the challenge system put in place during the registration and exhibition exercise will further flag unqualified voters on the register. Ultimately, these processes will contribute to the cleaning of the register and ensure its integrity and credibility ahead of the 2020 election. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's Let the Citizen Know encounter. And before we take a bow, we would like to assure the good people of Ghana that as a commission, we are determined to put in place and ignite all mechanisms available to us to clean the register and rid it of all unqualified persons, i.e. minors and foreign nationals. We are confident that at the end of the day, we will present Ghanaians with a credible register that reflects Ghanaians only, a wholly owned Ghanaian endeavor.
So we want to do the discussions, but also premise on a very dispassionate manner. And I have Mamavi also here, so we'll try to pull our own resources together to make sure that we make this quite interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. We also want to engage Patrick Stevenson, who's a senior research analyst with Imani. Also joining the conversation, Dr. Alidu Seidu will be joining the conversation as well. He's a political scientist with the University of Ghana. Let's start with you. Patrick Stevenson, good morning to you. Hello to you if you can hear me.
Hello, good morning, Mama V and Roland. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Stephen.
Yeah. Let's just begin with the figures that the Electoral Commission announced yesterday. You said something even before this figure came out. So let's try to consolidate what you've said earlier and what has happened with the latest figures that we have in terms of the justification for the registration exercise itself. What will be your initial comments?
Well, I mean, I think right from get-go, we at Imani have been very consistent in balancing the needs of the country at this particular point in time against what sound public policy judgments have got to be. And having, gone through the series of engagements with the EC and some other civic actors, I think we came to the sound conclusion, based on our analysis, that this re-registration, was needless because it was based on, some assumptions that really didn't exist. So having gone through this, I think even before the EC did its mop-up exercise, we had indicated that, we're back to square one, and that's exactly what has happened because the Electoral Commissioner has a register with about 16.96 million people on there, and they cannot tell that this register is absolutely clean because already they're indicating that, there are foreign nationals who shouldn't be there. You equally have minors. And the EC doesn't have capacity to determine who a minor is or otherwise. So it's relying purely on, citizens challenging, the people who are on the register. Now that's a very porous system fundamentally because, so if somebody is a minor and gets on the register and there is no challenge, how does the EC know? And it's one of the arguments we've made right from get-go that, we have an institution in this country that has been tooled, and for some strange reason, we have under-resourced that institution for determining who a minor is, and that's the birth and death registry, right? And so, having gone through this, we still don't see the reason why we've, the entire country has gone back, a full circle. And the position of the EC now and the results we've seen from the exercise, if not for anything at all, validates the position that we have held, from get-go, that, the only way was to find the proper mechanisms by which we rid the existing register at the time of minors that were on there and foreign nationals that were on there. And the only way to do that was sort of adjusted, and worked collectively with existing institutions rather than this wanton waste of resources that we have seen.
But of course, the Electoral Commission strongly disagrees with this position, and they think that this exercise has been successful. If you look at our mechanism, it's impossible to get rid of foreigners, to get rid of minors, just as you said, if we don't get anybody challenging the process.
Well, so that's a very interesting way of looking at it. I think that the EC's claim that this has been successful has not been based on any superior metric or any superior reasoning. You don't decide after the fact that what you have done is successful or otherwise. We should know what you intended to do, right from get-go. I should also say that the idea that it's difficult or it's challenging for us to rid minors off of the register, I don't think it's that complicated at all, because whatever the Electoral Commission is going to do now is what should have been done before. And it's one of the views that we have held and advocated for throughout this entire period, that for anybody to turn 18 years old and get registered on a register, if we even devoted about even 10% of the resources that went to the Electoral Commission for this exercise and double or triple the capacity of the birth and death registry, and they are building superior biometric systems and systems that are up to date, they should be in the position to tell us who's turning 18 years old in the country or not. And that becomes a primary data that is then used by the Electoral Commission, right? So right from 2012, I should say, we've held the view that if we don't fix the national identification system, things like this will continue to happen. So the EC cannot say there's no better way of ridding the system off of minors, or ridding the register off of minors who are on there, or foreign nationals who are on there. Regarding foreign nationals, I think the point has got to be made that if the person is not Ghanaian and attempts to register, it's a criminal offense, okay? The Electoral Commission doesn't prosecute criminal offenses in this country. That is a jurisdiction of the security apparatus of the country. So obviously, if we are going to get a clean, sound register that is Ghanaian and belongs to Ghanaians, the Electoral Commissioner must understand that the independence that is guaranteed it depends on its ability to work with other state institutions. So all the people we have already seen the Electoral Commission going around and indicating that being apprehended, that level of forensics and determination is purely a responsibility of the security apparatus of the country. So I guess the point I'm making is that there are existing tools, there are existing regulatory frameworks by which we could have gotten this done without necessarily going through the cycle that we have and still, end up with a register that still has, minors on there. And if a minor is there, as we speak today, the Electoral Commissioner does not have a system to determine it until independent citizens challenge the person. So if a 17-year-old or 16-year-old, maybe I'm not accusing any political party here, but a 16-year-old, through some political shenanigans, has been able to get their name on the register until somebody says Kweku Mensah or Yamenu does not have to be on the register. The Electoral Commissioner doesn't know. There's no way they can determine that. Unless they're going to tell us they're going to work with the birth and death registry or some other institution. But then again, the information parameters I was taken during the registration exam doesn't allow that. So we find this, a complete waste of the country's resources. And we hope that this is a lesson that collectively as a country we have learned, because it will be very strange in the near future for this same commission to come back and indicate that, well, the number of people who, for example, have gotten onto the register by the supposed guarantee system is too much, the numbers are too large, and they've not been able to read people, like we saw in the case of the National Health Insurance Card and some other systems before, and so we need to conduct a new register. Yeah.
Well, we've also been joined by a senior political scientist with the University of Ghana Political Science Department. He's a regular contributor on the show, but also on such transparency and electoral matters. Dr. Ali Seidu, good morning to you. When you first heard the Electoral Commission yesterday make that pronouncement that we had foreigners and minors, what came to mind? Dr. Seidu?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning, Roland.
Yeah, good morning.
And then to your viewers. I think I was...
Well, and so, okay, so as of now, we're making some comparisons, and this is real data coming from the Electoral Commission. 2016, 2020, number of persons with disabilities registered, 61,000 registered by 2016. We've had additional growth of about approximately 3,000, as it is, just short of some 6 or 7, all right? And so we've had some incremental 3,007. And at least for the whole period when they had from day 1 to 38 of the registration being undertaken, in the phases as they were, total number of first-time voters were now 4.5% of the entire register. And so it would mean that from the last time that we compiled, we've had additional 762,944. And the last time we did an update was in 2019. You remember? We opened the register up before the local level elections, as it is. So in total, national total of 61,000 as it is, distribution of persons with traumatic fingers. And this was what Mamavi Osawaji was referring to. I don't know. So that's why we have our commentators, our experts, our lecturers, also our researchers on stream. Dr. Alidu said you're back. Okay, so my question, when you heard the Electoral Commissioner or the Commission itself make that announcement that we had foreigners and minors on the register, what came to mind as a political scientist?
I was surprised, simply because one of the selling points for the EC's justification for the conduct of a new voters register was the fact that the old register had a lot of foreigners. Actually, they called it the ECOWAS register and not a Ghanaian register. It had a lot of minors who were not legally qualified to vote, having their names in the register. So, but also there was a point that they made about the fact that they needed to add a third security feature, rather than just using the term, the biodata. They needed to add was it the eyelashes or whatever it was, to strengthen the security system of the registration process, and for that matter, the complete voter register that we're going to have. About 38 down the line of registration and violence and deaths and beatings and destruction of properties, we were told that we still have foreigners in the voters register. And I was wondering, then what happened? The assurances, the deployment of troops in almost all the border areas to prevent people who are not Ghanaians coming in to register. What happened to all these things? The kind of divisiveness that was created by this restricted movement of people across one area to another. Then we are technically back to square one. The EC said they have mechanisms of addressing these challenges. They will be able to get these people out. And I was thinking, why didn't they do it earlier by subjecting Ghanaians to this kind of 38 days of technical hardships? Now, there may be two reasons which they didn't want to admit, that we can never have a voters register that is 100% clean. It is very difficult to have something like that. One, either because the tools or the mechanism that is being used to register people cannot detect whether somebody is underage or somebody is not a Ghanaian. It takes the responsibility of party agents and other people, community members, to identify somebody who is not a Ghanaian or somebody who is not legally of age to register. Now, this particular process has in itself been subjected to abuse because people know that this person is an indigent, is a Ghanaian, but simply because of the fact that he or she cannot speak a specific language or because they assume that he is going to vote for a specific political party, they end up challenging that person. So if care is not taken, and we are only going to use the fact that somebody's nationality or age requirement has been challenged by another person, means that the person is not supposed to be in the voters register. If you're going to go by that criteria, we are going to end up disenfranchising people who are qualified to register and vote and have been challenged. Now, two, what is the problem? Is it systematic or institutional problem, or it is a matter of agency? When you look at it, the EC should have admitted from the beginning that there were systematic challenges in the sense that the voters, the equipment that we use to register people in itself cannot detect who is a Ghanaian and who is qualified to vote by age or by sound mind or by whatever criteria that is captured in our constitution. So they should have admitted that it is not possible to have an entirely clean register. And for that matter, mechanisms that they are now going to employ now to clean this new register, they could have used it to clean the first register and save us a lot of challenges that we went through. But two, if it is a matter of agency, political parties, stakeholders to the electoral process who are actually facilitating this kind of procedure, deliberately bringing people who are not qualified to register and vote, either by age or by nationality, then they have to find a way, team up with the appropriate agencies, fish out these people, and make sure that the right thing is done. They are arrested and prosecuted. But once we do not admit these things, simple because we wanted to make a point, or maybe simple because some people had their eyes on procurement processes and whatever reason that justified the whole process, then it suggests that we are now coming back to realize that the issues to having a clean voter register is a fundamental principle that we should always adhere to at all times, and has to do with the fact that we need to make the right institution, get the right institutional equipment and materials that is required to get the right people on the voters register. But we also have to fight the issue of the agency problem, where political parties and people with interest in the voter register deliberately circumvent or undermine or ignore the principles that are supposed to be used genuinely to get people registered. So I think that's the perspective we should be coming from.
Stay with us, Dr. Ali Seidu. Let's go back to Patrick. Patrick is, Dr. Ali Seidu, just so you know, we have Patrick Stevenson with Imani also joining us on this conversation. So let me come to you, Patrick.
Hello, Dr. Seidu.
Okay, so Patrick, if you look at the Electoral Commission's figure of 37,762 applicants who had been challenged for various reasons, and mainly they say for nationality purposes, but they're confident that through the challenge system, they can get rid of these people who are not eligible to be on the register. Are you as confident as the Electoral Commission is?
Well, the position of the commission on that one, I dare say is a joke, because when people challenge, the nationality of a citizen, I think that there are only two ways that goes. Either the person is indeed a citizen or is not. You cannot, as a commission, say before even the process begins that you can read the 37,000 people off the register. Indeed, what I know, and some individuals who have been challenged that I am familiar with, have all come out clean, right? And the processes by which some of those challenge, procedures were even initiated, we saw some of these videos and some of these engagements on social media. A lot of it was not through legitimate processes. People were, almost harassing individuals who came to register. We equally have, video evidence of people filling up, some of these guarantee forms up front, and keeping them for people who show up and didn't have whether the Ghana card or passport to get registered, to just sign them off. So people typically are on this register today, have guarantors who have signed, and guaranteed the funds for them that they don't know, right? That's the implication of that narrative. As a commissioner going to find those people and bring them to book if somebody doesn't challenge? And the argument is that when that challenge comes, they can read them off. They can't, unless they have gone through and exhausted the process. Then they will determine who's legitimate or who's not. So it's possible that all 37,000 people will be squeaky clean. It's possible they will all not be clean. It's possible a part of it. So I don't think that the argument that the EC is making is anything that is sound that we should take, that they'll be able to take them off. At best, we should or we will be able to get some of those people off if they are illegitimate. And I think a very important point that has been made by Dr. Saidu is that you have an agency problem where the political parties themselves are involved in this difficulty. What it means is that you, the commissioner, must be as clear as possible as far as the guidelines for getting people on the register is concerned. When you have nearly 40% of the people on the register getting on via forms, the guarantee forms, and these guarantee forms themselves are subject to this level of abuse, and you're waiting for people to challenge them when your own, temporary officials are complicit, and you turn a blind eye to this. You wasted the country's money and wasted everybody's resources. There are people who have gone, and registered during this period, and there were no social distancing mechanisms that were implemented properly. We have subjected them to all of these difficulties and these mishaps simply because we didn't want to have a debate in this country about what had to be done properly. And we have gone 360 degrees. So I don't think the argument that, all the 37,000 people are going to liberate, that's not going to happen. If we truly have to fix electoral processes and fix this conversation around the register going forward, I think the extreme administrative powers that is accorded the Electoral Commission for almost determining at their will when they think we need a new register or not, when we have underlying institutions and infrastructure that is supposed to help us compile data for the Electoral Commissioner to leverage on, if we don't get to that work, we're never going to getting anywhere with this.
Dr. Alidu Saidu, let's get you to also react to this same belief. In fact, the confidence that the Electoral Commission has that the register will be used, this register that we're going to use for the 2020 election will be a wholly owned Ghanaian enterprise reflecting qualified Ghanaians only. And that's a quote from the commissioner as she spoke yesterday. Are you as confident?
Limited confidence. How do you determine who a complete Ghanaian is among the people who are already registered? Because I believe a lot of mechanisms were put in place to make sure that only qualified people qualified citizens get into the voters register. We have not been able to achieve that. Simply because, like I mentioned earlier, the voter registration machine itself cannot determine this. The EC have to strictly enforce. And we had political parties and to some extent, officers who were employed by the Electoral Commission to help conduct the registration process were actually helping in some of these things that happened. Now, the vouching process, just 2 registered citizens can vouch for another person to register. How do you determine the nationality of the person that they are vouching for? We know there were people who got the Ghana card, and perhaps they were not Ghanaians, and they have been able to register with that particular card. How do you determine whether you can only determine that they have been able to register by using the Ghana card? But how do you determine whether they are citizens or not? Once they have the Ghana card, it is assumed that they are citizens. But 3, there were deliberate attempts in some circumstances by political party agents to challenge people that they believe are likely going to vote in a certain way. So, for example, maybe if I assume that you are a northerner, or you are from Zongo, or you are this, the assumption is that you are likely going to vote this. Or if you are an Ewe or Akan or this, you are likely going to vote this way. So people actually look at people's names or their appearances and deliberately challenge them, not because they have evidence to show that they are Ghanaians or they are not Ghanaians. So it takes a very delicate process to be able to tell apart people who were mischievously challenged by virtue of the fact that the challenger assumed because of their identity they will be voting a certain way, and people who were genuinely challenged simply because they were not Ghanaians. So it is a serious kind of scrutiny that goes into determining of those who have been challenged, determining which of them are Ghanaians and by what criteria. And like my colleague mentioned, most of the review process committees that have sat have realized that most of the people who were challenged were actually Ghanaians, and they have been handed over their voter ID cards. So if you are going to go by that particular principle, it will mean that maybe at the end of the day, almost all the people who have been challenged will be brought back into the voters register. So how then do we determine which of these 16.9 million people are Ghanaians, who are not Ghanaians, by what yardstick? If you are challenging their age, what document are you going to use to challenge them whether they are 18 or not? Because we now know that the birth certificate doesn't play any role at all in the manner we register. So I think we have set huge traps on our way just in the quest to compile a new voters register, and these traps are now coming to haunt us big time. So to be honest with you, I'm still wondering how they are going to do to make this very clean. If they are able to do that, why didn't they want to use that same principle to make the old voters register as clean as they are going to do now? That is my major question.
On all the things that you two have outlined, could some of these things that you've stated become grounds for which we could have some rancor or disagreement over the credibility and use of this register by the stakeholders, i.e. the political parties, political state actors, and politically exposed persons prior to the election?
Well, Roland, I think that's a very important question you ask. And if we are to get an electoral process in December that, you know, is free of violence and for people to trust it, I think it almost depends on the conduct of all the processes prior to the elections, or because election is just an event, it's just one day's event. But what we do before that and how we conduct ourselves after that, I think is a much more interesting dynamic that I don't think, you know, the conduct of the commissioner, the commission has given people that level of, you know, confidence and satisfaction they're looking for. Not too long ago, about 2 days ago, there were some civic actors who had a conversation, and one of the things that came up, this is probably one of the most violent, you know, registration exercise we have seen in the last 30 years of the country. And that is very worrying, because if the registration alone is violent, what could be the implications for the elections, right? And so if at this point we know that there are foreigners and there could be minors on the register, and the electoral commissioner is not the institution that determines citizenship of anybody, it doesn't. The electoral commission is just supposed to compile a register for voters. There are institutions that determine citizenship. So if a foreigner gets into the country, they're either going through the Ghana Immigration Service, there are laws that they have to, you know, apply and subject themselves to. If somebody is a minor, the only institution, like Dr. Alidu mentions, that can determine that is the birth and death registry. No other institution in this country has got the constitutional backing to determine that, right? Because you need a person's date of birth to validate that. And to do that, well, you're going to have to go back to the birth and death registry. Here we are, we have sidelined all of these institutions. So by our conduct getting into the elections, we have almost created room for people to doubt the actions of the commissioner going into the elections. And so for me, we have just opened a can of worms that we must find a way of dealing with. And I think a number of things must happen. The Electoral Commission must, as a matter of urgency, dialogue and rally around all the stakeholders that have an interest in the elections and admit to its problems and its faults. It's okay. I think we're a country, once these things happen, we get these things happening all the time, we don't listen. We must start finding solutions at the moment. So have a conversation with the majority, the minority, and all other stakeholders that are interested in the elections. It could be, the Christian Council and some other civic actors. And let's be clear and transparent about the current developments and the mechanism that we use to move from here. If we don't do that, we sow seeds of doubt in the minds of people that are going to go into the elections in December. And who knows what that could lead to. The assumption that sometimes, the state apparatus or the state security apparatus could be brought in to call some of these things when they come up. I think it's fine. The security apparatus of the country can be able to deal with this, but we are building a democratic practice that must be able to operate on its ground without the rigid interference of these state machinery. And so I think that we are at a point where, beyond what the commission has already indicated they want to do, just expunge names of people that have been challenged, etc. We have already established that there's no way they can claim they have a clean register as a result of the developments you have seen. They can't do it. It's impossible. We accept the problem, but now they need serious dialogue with civic actors, and that irresponsible behavior we saw before they went on this exercise where, institutions like the Christian Council and the House of Chiefs and other, relevant institutions when it comes to the practice of democratic dispensation, try to invite them to have a conversation about this same register. They failed to show up and they thought, because they're independent, that is it. I think we can't do that again. Because in a democratic dispensation, it is not only about laws. Yes, a rule of law, but it's not only about the laws. You're looking at the political context within which you apply the law. And the commission hasn't positioned itself to give us that level of credibility. It's an institution that, as we speak today, has lost so much credibility, whether it's on the administrative side, on the policy side, on the legal side. And, we can even infer things like, procurement racketeering, as a result of the exercise we have seen. We have even called for a comprehensive audit of all the assets of the commission that, it indicated were obsolete, and it's part of the reasons why we had to go into this entire franchise. So I'm saying that there are things that have happened that have undermined, in my opinion, the credibility of the institution going into the elections. And if we really want a very peaceful election, I think the commission must start doing what is right.
Well, the election will be peaceful, I think. But moving on, Dr. Alidu Seidu. So now, from what you two have said, we're crying over spilled milk. If that is the situation, we've already spent the money, and so we have to move forward. What sort of dialogue, based on what Stevenson is recommending, should we be undertaking to have a buy-in of the stakeholders?
So I think, first of all, the credibility of the outcome of an election is dependent on whether it is fraud-free or fraud-ridden. Now, a fraud-ridden outcome may occasion in two instances, where we have a procedural fraud or a ballot fraud. Usually, ballot fraud occurs on the election day where we vote, where people can stuff the ballot box or do things that do not reflect the will of the people. But the procedural fraud starts way before the election day. So if you circumvent, or there are reasons to believe that specific procedures have not been strictly followed in the run-up to the D-Day, then it could have a lot of credibility issues on the outcome of the D-Day scenario. So, first of all, I think there are electoral stakeholders in this country. Political parties are one of them. The EC needs to go back to IPAC or whatever platform that they're going to meet political parties, and then address this issue of what? The procedure that has been circumvented, undermined, or for whatever reason that contributes to people having to doubt the integrity of the election. Civic bodies, there have been a lot of support and suggestions and advice from civil society organizations in the run-up to this exercise. But largely, most of them were ignored or at best were not heeded too. Civic bodies play a specific role in shaping our democratic dispensation. They will have to speak to them on the way forward and what should be done. They will also have peace stakeholders, the National House of Chiefs, the National Peace Council, and even we citizens. We are all stakeholders to having a stable, peaceful, democratic state where we can all live and achieve our desired aspirations and live meaningful lives. So at the end of the day, I think the EC alone cannot carry this particular exercise of cleaning the voters register with complete disregard to stakeholders of the electoral processes, but also agents, beneficial agents of the electoral processes. So they will have to meet and then outline the kind of procedural breaches that might have occurred and that has led to our current situation, and then seek advice on how we can go about doing it. I know the EC, the Constitution says that in the conduct of their business, they should not seek direction or adhere to suggestions and other things from other people. They are independent-minded. But I also believe that when you get to a certain level of contestations or certain level of certain states in your conduct of your businesses, it is not a bad thing to have a stakeholder meeting and then seek suggestions. They have done that in the past through IPAC and some of the suggestions that have come that they think can better enhance their work. They have accepted them. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board, engage key stakeholders to the electoral processes, find out the wisdom that they have to add to what the EC already have, to be able to see how we can deal with this. So that moving forward, we know that there is so much trust, there's so much credibility in the voters register, and for that matter, the results or the outcome that we're going to have in December will truly reflect the will of the people. Once we are able to do that, then I believe people will begin to understand that we are moving towards what? Accountability and transparency. And we also have to realize that there's never a register in this world that is 100% complete. So the level or the margin of error in the voter register is also very significant. And I think these are some of the issues that they should look at when they are engaging stakeholders to the electoral processes.
I just kept wondering, the last point, why is it that you guys all didn't say it? I don't know, before we started.
Which one's that? The fact that you can have 100%, complete, as we put it, in terms of a register with no issues. There will definitely be issues. Do you agree with that, Patrick, just before we wrap up?
I mean, so I am, so the researcher in me, agrees that in any, data analysis or data, the research, narrative like that, it's a possibility, right? And again, it's a human institution, and those of us in the social sciences appreciate that you cannot, for the want of a better word, have a foolproof system. However, if we tool certain institutions, and I've indicated some of them, if we're focusing purely on the number of people that get onto the roll, I think there are a number of adjustments we can make. I think the most important adjustment is the number that get on the roll and the number that leave the roll. And the typical gauge is, the number of people that are turning 18 and the number of people that are given birth to, who eventually turn 18, and the number of people who die, from the country. I mean, if we're focusing purely on Ghanaians and we have our security apparatus working to ensure foreigners don't get on the register, if that's a metric to go by, with the $1 million that we give the birth and death registry, that we end up disbursing about only 60 or 70% every year, if we can adjust that and say the birth and death registry, for example, has $10 million, and we almost improve their capacity by tenfold, it means a number of things. One, they can accurately track and register every child at birth. Yes, there may be some people who fall through the cracks because already we have a very centralized system of that sort of administration, right? There are people in the rural areas who are giving birth to who we are not able to register. So fair enough. So some of those may fall through the cracks, right? But like Doctor indicated, the numbers, the incidence of the errors, I think would be very, very, very marginal if we build proper data systems that are built off of sound technological solutions. And we have all these tools today.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much for helping us with this situation. Patrick Kobler-Stevenson is a senior research analyst with Imani. Thank you very much, Patrick. And Dr. Ali Duseidu, political scientist with the University of Ghana. Always very grateful. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, so that's it for our conversation on the Electoral Commission with the figures announced yesterday. That's where we are. Situation still remains. We have minors and people who are not of Ghanaian nationality. That still stands as an allegation. And about 37,000 and more of such persons. We'll see how this goes in terms of will they all get on it? How many of them will not get on the register? We'll keep you updated. We have our next conversation coming up, Roland.
Yeah, and it's dealing with the lack of interest in child adoption and socio-cultural differences and barriers of us getting interested in adopting young people. And it also means that we have a number of children in foster care and orphanages. Now, the Department of Social Welfare has identified that we have thousands of these orphanages. We would want to discuss that. But what is their solution to ensure that because they are the department responsible for this, they are able to have this in check? We're having this conversation.
Roland is handling that conversation. One of the things that have come up really is the fact that the process is cumbersome. I mean, it's almost as if they don't want you to adopt. So we'll try and see what their understanding also really is with regards to this matter. Stay with us.
So overall, we want to talk about the subject of foster parenting, but more so why we have children in our society that will need to be taken care of within the family and the community setting, and what alternatives there are. And then we all do know the foremost department that tends to take care of some of these is the Social Welfare Department. I have its director right here, and Daniel Nona is the director, the national director for the Department of Social Welfare. And then we'll also be joined by Samuel Sanaglate, who also works relatedly on the subject that we have to talk about. And we will have him on stream when we do. But Mr. Nona is joining me. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining me. Now, generally, do we have incrementals in terms of a number of orphanages that have a number of children who are there as inmates?
Yeah, actually we do not have incremental now. Before the care reform initiative, there used to be the issue of people opening up orphanages just as they want to do business, as if it was some business venture. But as time went on, after the care reform initiative, we have tried to prevent that kind of thing. So that increment is no more there. It's rather reduced.
You talk about the care reform initiative. So when you saw that the numbers were increasing, or they were there without the proper laid down permission, so to speak, or the right to be there, then you decided to do this to counter it.
Of course.
So what did you do exactly?
So what we decided to do is to conduct a survey. So around 2007, we realized that the orphanages were many, so we decided to make sure that at least the negative impact was so great on these children. So we decided to look at the numbers. The data we collected wasn't good enough. We realized that people opened these orphanages just to make a business, as I was saying. So when we realized that the negative impact on the children too, it was so great, because you can find a child where the children in the orphanages, you realize that they were having problems with attachments. You know, the care that was given to them wasn't something that was good enough. So you had a lot of challenges where caregivers were so few And the children were so many because they harvested so many children into the orphanages. So you could have one caregiver, for example, taking care of about 15 children. And that one, of course, nobody can do that. I mean, take care of children of that number. So it was necessary for us to tone down the numbers. So that is what brought about the care reform initiative, because there were negative impacts on the children, relational problems, and they have to also, I mean, when they even leave the orphanage, difficult to reintegrate them into society.
But there are key questions about how children find themselves on the streets or orphaned. Have we been able to find that out?
Yeah, most of the time, I mean, for example, the orphanages, it was through poverty. People just took advantage of the fact that people were poor, and then they decided to go to them, oh, you give me your child for me to take care of. And then, you know, on the street also, it is also about the poverty most of the times, that children find themselves there because they want to survive. So mostly poverty is what is driving this.
So it means that ideally children should be growing in communities and a family setting.
It's important for the child to grow in the family because that is where the child is to be nurtured. You know, that is where the stimulating, I mean, you have the stimulating environment for the child to be able to grow well. So in the family, we have children who, most of the time, when you compare these children to other children, I mean, in normal homes, you realize that they have lower IQ. You know, they are not socially, they have not been socialized properly. You know, their physical development, everything is retarded. So we need to work on these things to ensure that children grow well in the family. And you know, the family will by all means transform into the larger community where we have a peaceful, a harmonious society where everybody will live in peace.
Well, when I was reviewing literature on this subject, I came across what they call institutionalization. Yeah. What exactly is it?
Well, it's about, as I was saying, people carrying children into harvesting. Usually we call them harvesting. People carrying children into the institutions, residential homes where they want to take care of them. So it's like they put them there and try to work with them and help them, but that help is not sufficient for the child.
Is it that the help is not coming or that the help is not sufficient?
The help is, you know, the help might become, maybe they think that the child needs food to eat because that is poverty, but you know, we have to handle children in such a way that they know they have a caring person. But here they are this kind of group treatment. People just see them as children who need help. And then the love is not there. So that is the whole issue about the institution.
Some years ago, and this one too, I came across it the whole of yesterday when I was reviewing literature. For example, we have a Hollywood star, Angelina Jolie, who wanted to or had adopted a child in Malawi, but had come under some difficulties with the processes of adoption. But we also do know that we have a lot of destitute children who would fare better in families that want them. So then my mind came to this question. When we say the adoption and the processes thereof, and then the foster home and the care itself, what are the differences?
You know, the foster home is just a temporary care place. It is for a period, maybe 6 months or less, or up to 1 year or more, depending on the child's situation. So that one is temporary, where the child can go back to the family. We can work on the family for the child to go back to his or her family. On the adoption, when you adopt a child, it means that the child is for the person who has adopted, the child. It's like a biological child to you. You have to take care and do everything for the child to ensure, even inheritance, the child is part of that family. So that one is a permanent solution to a child being...
Is it easier to adopt in Ghana?
It's easy to adopt. The only thing is for you to, if you bring your application and the child is found, they are going to match you with the child and then place the child with you.
Is this something that your department also handles?
Yeah, we handle that.
And if somebody, let's say from outside Ghana, wants to come and adopt, what is do we have a particular process that you're familiar you want to take us through, or you want us to defer that?
No, for the international adoptions, you know, they have to apply. They also have to, they have the adoption agencies there, and then we also have our adoption authority here. So what usually happens is for them to work on the person who wants to adopt. They'll look at the home conditions and all that. Then we are here with the child. We are going to look at the conditions of the child and whether it is actually something that we can allow for adoption. But the whole issue is that we don't, intercountry adoptions is only done when we cannot find anybody in the country here.
At the end of the day, we do know that there are some negatives for institutionalization. We're talking about putting people in homes, etc. What would that be?
Yeah, the negative impact is actually, as I was trying to explain, it's very great in when you send a child to the orphanage. You know, even the perception of the orphanages, I mean, it's not good. Somebody is in the orphanage and it's like, oh, these are children, fatherless. Somebody say fatherless, motherless, you know, the kind of words they use against them. So it's difficult for them to even get back into the community. And as I'm saying, when they are there, they are not treated like a child who is in the home. So that problem of attachment is there. Emotionally, they can't develop well. Physically, you know, socially, there are so many challenges there. And as I'm saying, they treat them as if, I mean, they need that help. It is not a right. So most of the times, you realize that the child cannot develop as he should. So,
does it mean that we want to encourage more children going to families than going to orphanages?
Of course, we just want, what we are educating the public is that we want the children in families. We have, if the child has a family, that is the best place for the child. If the child hasn't got that chance, we have to look for foster care, where the child will be there for, I mean, temporarily. Or we can also look for kinship care, where somebody who is related to the child somehow should be taking care of the child. And we have to work with them to ensure that the child is properly taken care of. And we also have the last option, which is the adoption. So when that happens, it means the child belongs to that particular family permanently.
Oh, we'll see how that goes. But we've also been joined by somebody who's also an expert, also works closely on this subject, and Samuel Sanaglate. I would say that it's a foster care expert, but also works closely with all the related matters that we're talking about. He is head of Foster Care Services Unit. And thank you for joining me, Mr. Sanaglate. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
No, great. The subject of foster care, is it a delicate issue, or is it a cumbersome process to put somebody in a foster care?
It is a very, very easy and a simple process to become a foster parent, such that our culture even allows us to already foster. I'm sure, Roland, when you were growing up, you may have lived with one of your uncles or aunties at some point, and that is all we are talking about. But we also acknowledge the fact that there are some children who do not have the privilege of living with an uncle or an auntie sometime or someday. So we want to take advantage of that culture that is inherent in us to train Ghanaians so they can take care of such children. So Roland, you are welcome to become a foster parent if you want to.
But if I want to adopt, what happens? Let's say I've temporarily been attached to this child, but I want to have that child as mine. How do we do the seamless transition?
That is dependent on a number of factors. It is not all the children that you see on the street or on the orphanage, or children that's come into the alternative care system who are adoptable, who are children who do not have families or parents who still want them. Some of the children come into the alternative care because parents are either very sick, parents abuse them, poverty level is children back if the condition gets better. So it will not be fair on the part of the child and on the part of these parents give such a child out to anybody at all for adoption. However, if after investigation it is detected that such children do not have anywhere to go, we want every child to grow up in a family. We want every child to have somebody they can call a mother or a father. We want every child to be able to point at a certain community and say, that is my hometown. In that case, we then recommend that whoever has bonded well with the child, has taken care of the child to that point where we realize there is no family that could be traced to adopt the child so that continues.
Now, this project that you talk about,
it is easy that you adopt you go to adopt the child after you have cared for the child.
Now, this project that you have, the family-based care project, it's supposed to be a solution to all this. Ultimately, what do we want to achieve with this?
Yeah, what we are trying to educate the public about is to tell them that the best place for the child is to live in the family. That's the best place, to promote that, for people to understand that the best place is for the child to grow in the family. Then we are also promoting the deinstitutionalization. We don't want children in the homes. So we are closing down those homes. And we are trying to also promote the fact that we want to have other alternative forms of care, which is the adoption, kinship care, and then we have the foster care. So we are also looking at the fact that the objective, what we also want to achieve is that we don't want the children, when we take them from the orphanage, we don't want them to be readmitted. We want to make sure that the child is permanently placed. We don't want them to be readmitted. And we want to encourage, the fact that we don't want people to be placing children. That should be the last resort in institutions. And it's only the social welfare department that is supposed to be placing children in such homes. So people should take note of this, that those who are operating the orphanages should not be placing children in the home just like that.
Mr. Sanaglate, so how do we resolve this? How do we make sure that everybody comes on board? That once we're saying it's not every child that is destitute, at least then we know that we can reintegrate them or encourage the families to take them back. Now, two, we have some who really have nobody to care for them. How do we identify them, encourage sections of the public or households or the community to say that we want to take these children in, adopt them, or take them in as families?
It is adoption. I was listening to you earlier when you and your panelists were saying that adoption is a very complicated thing, and it is as if we don't want anybody to adopt. That is very, very, very false. The processes are quite stringent because we don't want a situation where the wrong child will be placed with family because of the interest of that child. Assuming a child is placed with a family wrongfully and then later the parents are identified, what do you think we might have done to the child? Okay, so we just want the processes to be followed as it should. And then we have also made some checks, which makes it a bit very difficult for people to be able to outwit the system. So if you apply and it becomes difficult for you to adopt, it is because there are certain things that you are not doing right. Adoption as it stands, it's in the best interest of the child. So if we are considering the best interest of the child, we want the best for the child. We will always try as much as possible to think about the child first and not the applicant or the adoptive parent. If it's easy for the child to go and we think the child has no family, we do that. We also encourage Ghanaians and every well-meaning citizen of this country to come forward and then try as much as possible to help these children. If we don't have foster parents signing on, we will not be able to have success with this alternative care system we are talking about. We prefer to have children placed in family rather than them being taken to residential homes for children. So one other way we can get this thing done better is like you are doing, giving us the opportunity to talk to the general public, and we encourage more of such things to happen so that a lot more people will get to know of this and then apply to become parents to such children.
Let me again clarify. If I have a child in my care with my family, I bond with a child, but that child is not mine. Let's say, but if I get to identify that child doesn't have anybody to look after him or her, how do I make sure that that child becomes mine?
Well, the issue is about, I don't know, if it's about kinship, where the child, normally in Ghanaian society, where the parents are not there and somebody is willing to take care of the child. That one, there's no problem. Most of the time, people have informal.
You're talking about within the family setting, the same family?
Yes.
That's kinship?
Yes.
Okay.
But if it's about, you have found a child somewhere, you don't just have to keep the child, because the children are for what? Government. So anytime you find a child, you have to send the child to what? Department of Social Welfare, where if perhaps you want to foster the child, but the child has to be matched with you. If the child is matched with you and then we realize that the child can be there, then the child will be given to you to foster. But if it also reaches a point where you realize that, well, this child, the family cannot be found, or the family has relinquished the child, we don't want the child anymore, maybe the child will be given up for adoption, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because you are keeping the child will be given to you. So, I mean, bonding with the child, that's what we are saying. As a foster parent, when you even bond with the child, what happens is that you have to be ready to also give up the child. It's not about the fact that I'm fostering a child and because of that, I want to adopt the child.
Mr. Sanaglate, I'll give you the last word before I come to, and this is just for a minute. So, as we encourage more foster care parents, how then do we solve the next step where people bond with them emotionally? Well, it's frozen. How do we resolve that? I have bonded with a child is not mine. If it's the kinship, that's another matter, that's a relative or a community person. Yeah. So what do I do?
If you are bonded with the child, that's what I'm saying. In the best interest of the child, we have to be looking at what is going on with you and that child, understand? So that if you are bonded well, and then we check the background of the child, that's what I'm saying. If we realize that the child is adoptable, then you can decide to what? Adopt the child. But if the child is like placed in your foster care, placed in your care for you to take care of, it doesn't mean that when they place the child there and you're bonded with the child, by all means you have to,
by what time do we want to have as a limited number of institutions as possible? I mean the orphanages and some of the care homes.
Well, we have been trying to close down some of those institutions which are not meeting the national standards. And then not all of them can go anyway. But what we are doing is that we are reducing it. There is a 5-year plan, which we are hoping to reduce the orphanages maybe up to 50 in the whole country. Presently, there are more than 100. So we are ensuring that children who go to those places, enter into institutions, they are sent back to a family or their families or into foster care, kinship care, or adoption. So we are reducing the numbers instead. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for passing through the studio. Grateful. We'll have to call on you because this is a bigger one as well. And this is all new to us as Africans, right? But we've had in the studio the director of the Department of Social Welfare, and it's under the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. And Mr. Daniel Nona has been my guest right here, but also on stream is Samuel Sanaglate. He is the boss of the unit, foster care. And we have been doing a lot of discussions on. We'll try and do more to make sure all of us are in tune with what we need to do when we find the children and we're interested. But it's where we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll tell you what is going down about CHIME. We're talking the Commonwealth initiative, and the Commonwealth Expertise and Investment Council has already started the CHIME program, and We'll be having John Appiah, who is the boss of the institution right here, the head of mission, Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, to help us understand where we're going with the next phase. Stay on. We'll be right back.
Well, we hope we've explained the processes of adoption better. You have a clearer understanding, and you will adopt a child and give that child a home. Now, the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council has introduced specially designed accredited courses to increase the knowledge and employability of Ghanaians during COVID-19. The Council, a major Commonwealth organization accredited to the Commonwealth Secretariat and with a mandate by the Commonwealth heads of government to promote trade and investment, has outdoored the Advancing Business Education designed Commonwealth Home Individual Management Education program in Accra. We're going to be speaking more about it. Joining me is John Appiah. He's the representative in charge of the Africa region for the Royal Commonwealth Society and the head of mission for the business arm of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. Well, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining me.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me this morning.
Okay, and I have to say congratulations to you on your appointment of Dr. Tunde Bakari, former vice presidential running mate to President Buhari. What does it mean to the Commonwealth?
Hey, Mama V, it's a big coup for us. One of our presidents across our branches in Africa, when he heard the news, he said, you guys have landed a big whale. This is more than a big fish. Dr. Bakari is respected. He's a confidant of His Excellency President Buhari for a reason. We're very excited. What it means for us is that the Commonwealth is open for business. We're serious about advancing economies and making a real change. When it comes to the Commonwealth, our GDP at the end of this year, despite COVID, is going to hit $13 trillion. We're across all continents, 2.5 billion citizens. It's endless. And we're very excited that we have someone like Dr. Bakari. His stature is immense. His vision and his passion is even greater, and we're very excited.
Well, I'm also excited, but I can't help but ask who else is on the board. Is there a Ghanaian, anybody else from Africa?
Well, Mama V, the board is made up of the great and the good. Let me put it that way. For now, in consultation with Dr. Bakari, we're going to constitute the entire board. We have some names on, but for confidentiality reasons, he's not allowed me to share it at the moment. But there will not be many surprises there, because everyone on there is promoting change in their communities. A fruit from the tree that is on. Dr. Bakari is well respected, and we're going to have a very strong team. I'm not sure if I saw your name on there, Mama V, but I'll let you know in close changes.
Okay.
If your name is on there.
I'll keep my ears open, but let's talk about the Commonwealth Home Individual Management Organization program, which is in partnership with the Office of the President of Ghana and JoyNews. How exactly does this help economies?
Well, Mama V, when it comes to what is happening with COVID, the best way to stimulate any economy is to start off by trying to save as many lives as possible. When people are alive, that is already a plus. But beyond that, we have to find ways in which we promote economic development across the Commonwealth. And for us, what this CHIME does is that it gives Commonwealth citizens knowledge and skills that they need to use to promote economic development in their countries. In economic terms, we're dealing with post-neoclassical endogenous growth theory, which has to do with the fact that economic development is actually based on innovation in the countries and human capital. So our plan with CHIME and the Commonwealth Home Individual Management Education Program is to offer e-learning classes that actually increase the knowledge base of citizens. It makes them more employable, it makes them more effective in their workplaces. And for those who are entrepreneurs, and we need great entrepreneurs within Africa to create jobs as well,
it gives them lots of knowledge and lots of skills to be able to be successful. We have courses like project management, operational management, communication skills, and all these courses are very necessary for those who are working, for those who are unemployed, for those who are entrepreneurs. Everyone needs it.
Okay, but please explain to us, how does one get to be part of it?
So it's very simple. We started off in Ghana. We're very happy to have JoyNews as our partner, along with the Office of the President of Ghana, the SDG Advisory Unit. We have the National Youth Authority as a partner and the NCCE as a partner. It's very simple. You go to www.chimeghana.org. That is CHIME, C-H-I-M-E, Ghana.org. We started off with Ghana. We're moving into Nigeria and the rest of Africa in the next month. And I'm very happy to say that the first batch has been closed, and students should start the courses by the 1st of September. So by the 1st of September.
No, I was just going to say already, how many students do you have from Ghana?
Oh, it's a lot, in the hundreds. We signed up in the hundreds for the first batch. And we're very excited. We've closed it. So we're on to the second batch now. And in September, we hope to start with other African countries where we're looking at Nigeria, we're looking at Zimbabwe, we're looking at Gambia, we're looking at Zambia. And we have great partners who are connecting us with the right institutions to be able to come on board and make this extremely successful. And we think it's a great initiative for Africa. And obviously having Dr. Bakari as a part of the Commonwealth as the chair now will even put more wind in our sails as we change lives.
Absolutely. I'm signing on for the next one. I think I missed this one. So I'm joining the next batch.
Mama V, unfortunately you did, and my hands are tied, otherwise I'll try and put you in. But I've actually signed up myself. Okay. So maybe I'll share some.
So what are you studying then? What are you studying?
I'm doing project management. So the CHIME course is 36 modules. You can study for 36 modules. Out of the 36 modules, you get 14 accredited certificates out of it. So you can go at your own pace. You can decide to do all 36 modules, or you might decide to just do 2 modules. It's dependent on you. You know, and as I've said previously, these courses, if they were being charged normally, they're worth about $5,000 to $10,000. But it's heavily subsidized by the Commonwealth and with the support of the Office of the President and our other partners such as Joy, to be able to bring it at a very cheap price. I think in Ghana at the moment it's 185 cedis.
Yes.
It has been for the past 2 months, and we're not taking into account Forex. You know, so it's heavily subsidized. You're studying for 36 modules. You're talking of paying about 5 cedis for each module, which is completely unheard of. Each module usually will be at least about $500 or $1,000 or something of that sort. So it's very heavily subsidized, and we are happy to bring it to Ghanaians. And go onto the website. If not, you can call our number as well, 059-460-4444. And we're very excited. Mama V, I'll put your name down for the second batch.
Well, thank you. And I'm happy that this is going to Nigeria. So our friends watching us in Nigeria can take advantage of this. Thank you very much, John, for joining us.
A pleasure having you.
Okay.
Mama V.
And that's John Appiah. He's a representative in charge of the Africa region for the Royal Commonwealth Society and the head of mission for the business arm of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. We've got show business news coming out next with Caddy, formerly known as Tic Tac. He's now Tick. He's hanging out with Caddy, but I call him Brad Tick. That conversation is up next.